Hey fellow language learning nerds, thanks for stopping by. Today it's time for another My Japanese Bookshelf video, a series where I introduce you to some of the books on my metaphorical Japanese bookshelf. Today that definition of my metaphorical bookshelf expanded a little bit. Usually I say metaphorical because I have books up here on my desk, on the other side of the room. It's not just one shelf. But for today's book, that has to extend a little bit because this book is actually digital. So I don't have a copy to show. Here, editing me will insert the book here. Probably. Thanks, editing me. Yes, today I wanted to talk about Volume 1 of Spy Family. Yay! I really love this really love this series. In fact, my original idea for my series of My Japanese Bookshelf was meant to be I go through all of the physical books that I own to try and have thoughts about each of them, but I just couldn't resist buying myself a copy of Spy Family and reading it. I had already been reading it in English, so I knew I was enjoying it. Just really like this series, and yeah, when they kind of announced that it's going to get an anime and they released a little teaser trailer for it, I was just like, oh, I need this. I really want to try and read this in Japanese, and so I cracked, and I bought it for myself, and now I've read it, and now I'm going to talk about it. Now I'm just going to bleh about it because I love it. Try and organise my thoughts a little bit. If you have never heard of Spy Family or haven't read it yet, its basic concept is that there is a family of three, mum, dad and little daughter, and they all have a secret that they're trying to hide from everyone else. Dad is a spy, mum is an assassin, and the little girl she can read minds. And so she's the only one who actually knows the truth about mum and dad, but they don't know the truth about her or each other. Shenanigans ensue, and it is great. I'm gonna hold back from explaining any more of the story because it's very easy for me to just go into all the details, and then eventually I'll just end up telling you the entire story, which I don't want to do. You really should enjoy it for yourself, either in manga form or in the anime, which is coming out next year. I cannot wait. Okay, calm, relax. Let me actually get some coherent thoughts out about trying to read this in Japanese. The first main thing about it, in comparison to the other manga that I've been trying to read in Japanese over the last year, is that this one, I got through it so quickly in comparison. It took me roughly a week to do that, and especially if I compare that to the first manga I read in Japanese, that took me like 6 to 7 months to read that. I struggled with that so much, and to think that this one, within a week, I had kind of got it done. Wow, I was a little surprised. I was definitely surprised at myself. Like, really wasn't expecting to get it done that quickly. But yeah, I did that. I hope it's not a fluke. I think one of the things that went towards me getting through it so quickly was the fact that I really enjoyed this story. It's, out of all the ones that I've been reading this year, I think it's the one that I was most engaged with and wanting to read more. So I think that made me kind of keep going through, just like one more page, I'll just do one more page, that sort of thing. And I think that really helped me getting through this faster. What I was really happy about was that I did notice a few vocabulary improvements. There were some things that I recognised much more easily, or more recent words that I had been learning that were popping up. So I was really happy about that, as that's something that I had hoped to improve, both kind of in the later half of this year and going forward. I wanted to improve my vocabulary, and it seems like I have been doing that at least a little bit, so very happy to notice that. And I did sometimes when I would get to a speech bubble and it was actually a speech bubble where there wasn't a single word or kanji in there that I needed to look up, I could just read it and understand it, and I would be like, yes, this speech bubble, yes, I shall read it again. And I would read it about 3 or 4 times just to enjoy the fact that I could understand it. And it's like a simple sentence, it's nothing complicated, you know, it's not going to impress anyone, but I would just like read it a few times, just be like, yes, and enjoy the flavouring of this basic arse sentence, yes. Having said that, there were still, of course, a few speech bubbles that I kind of had to skip, or not necessarily skip, I would try to read through it and understand it, and I could maybe understand some of the words or vocabulary, but I couldn't 100% understand exactly what it was trying to say. But that happened a little bit less than it had on some previous manga that I had read, and it's still, like, as much as I have noticed an improvement, I think that things like that I should still expect and not stress over it too much. If there's a speech bubble every now and again that I don't 100% comprehend, that's okay. I can safely move on, because the overall story I'm still understanding, I'm still getting that. And I think having read the story before helped me with that confidence of being like, I will just skip the speech bubble, I'll just go on to the next one and continue the story without worrying that I'm going to like not understand something. Like I'm not going to read through the entire volume and then at the end be like, the dad's a spy? Like, I'm not going to miss any important information like that. Of course, while reading, I still had to have my faithful friend, the dictionary, with me at all times. It's gonna be a long, long time before I'm gonna, you know, be confident enough to not have the dictionary open first before I start trying to read a manga in Japanese. But I found that the process of seeing something and looking it up, I'm a bit more confident at doing that. I'm like, yeah, there's a word, yeah, quick, look that up. Oh, okay, cool, yep. It just feels like I'm more confident at using this tool to help me read, I guess. Also, I know earlier I had mentioned about my speed for this. Reading this was a lot quicker, and I think my setup for reading kind of helped with the speed, in that usually I would have the physical manga with me and then I would have either my phone open on the dictionary or the computer open with the dictionary, and there would be a case of like, oh, read, oh, okay, put that down, look up word, put that up, where am I, it would go back and forth like that. Whereas with this, because it was a digital version of the book that I bought, I could just have on the computer the manga and the dictionary side by side. And I found that just looking it up, like as soon as I saw a word that I knew I had to use the dictionary for, it would just, my fingers were already typing in the word into the dictionary to try and look it up. So that, I think, genuinely did help with the speed, just the setup for it. Yeah, it will. I think that does encourage me to read more manga in its digital form, but I always love physical books and manga, so I'm still also going to be buying those. There was a couple of things that I wanted to note, very specific things that I wanted to note with the Japanese language that I actually really enjoyed. So one was Anya's speech. Anya is the daughter of this family. Her speech, and also there was the mum character, her work, not her assassin work, her like day job, that's like a cover for her assassin job. She has some colleagues there, and it was to do with their speech. Okay, so starting with those colleagues, there's one in particular who is, not going to sugarcoat it, she's a bitch. And you obviously get that in both the Japanese and the English one. It's very obvious, you know, it's not a secret, right? That is just what she is. But in the Japanese, because they are in a work environment, when she speaks to the mum, is using polite speech, which is what you're meant to do in a work environment, right? You use the politer speech rather than casual speech. And she's doing that. But for some reason, being able to explicitly read her words as, like, see them and read them and hear them in my head as this politer speech, for me, it kind of emphasized her bitchiness a little bit more. I don't know why, like, just it raised the level of it just by 1 or 2%, I feel. And I don't know, it was just a slight difference because of the language that I felt between the English one and the Japanese one. But my favourite thing about this in Japanese is to do with Anya, the little daughter of the family. She is super young, she's probably like 4 or 5. She says she's 6, but I'm pretty sure she's a little bit younger than that. And she has a couple of unique things to her speech that I really enjoyed seeing. So one of them is that she speaks more in hiragana than everyone else. So obviously hiragana is like a written part of Japanese, so you can't speak in hiragana, but obviously you're reading what she's saying. And there are a few vocabulary that, while the adults may say it and they'll use the more complicated kanji to kind of not say it, but their speech is written with the more complicated kanji. But Anya's, even though she might say the same word, it's written in hiragana. Hiragana just being easier to read. So it's like, oh, because she's so young, she doesn't know kanji, so her speech isn't going to use that. Which was quite a cute thing, I thought. Also, I think there was like a moment where she uses Japanese wrong. So maybe I'm wrong and she's actually using it right, and it's just my lack of knowledge. But from what I saw, there was a couple of times where she used Japanese wrong, but it was showing that she's young, and so she's obviously making some mistakes. And it was so adorable, I can't even. I think my favourite example of this was later on in the volume, where the family is preparing to go for an interview for the school, this very posh school that they're trying to get little Anya into. And Anya kind of speaks in a very casual speech. She's just a little kid, but obviously they have like try to encourage her to speak politely when they go for the interview, because if you speak politely, then that gives a much better impression of you, right? So she has this moment where they're doing checks, I think, to like be like, how before they leave the house, to be like, oh, do we have this? Do we have this? Okay, I'll be sorted. Let's go. And when they're kind of like calling the checklist out, and Anya wants to say like, yeah, everything's okay, or yeah, everything will be okay, and she wants to say daijoubu desu. While she gets the correct politeness level, right? But she gets the wrong version of it. So instead of saying daijoubu desu, she says daijoubu masu. Now again, maybe that is somewhere in the Japanese language that could make sense, but as from what I know, that's wrong. She's got the correct level, but the wrong version. And it was so adorable to have this little girl go, daijoubu masu, daijoubu masu. I was like, ah, this is so cute. I just really thought the little changes to her speech, which you have to express in a different way in the English one, but I just found them so cute in Japanese. It was just so adorable, so adorable. Overall, I feel like I have felt an improvement in my reading with this one, both for like reading speed and vocabulary. So I hope that this has been kind of like a little sign to me that, one, I have improved since I started trying to read manga in Japanese, but also that maybe going forward reading will be a little bit easier for me as well. Obviously, I don't want to get too ahead of myself and be like, oh, it's going to be easier from now on for everything that I read. Because, you know, the next manga that I choose to read, I could pick up, open it, and then just be like, oh no, oh no, 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 no. But I'm going to choose to be hopeful overall. But yeah, I am looking forward to picking my next manga to read. I'm not sure what I'm going to pick. Actually, I might have to have a look through my manga and have a nosy, see what I feel like, I guess. Anywho, that is definitely enough natterings from me, to be sure. So I will leave you for now to get on with the rest of your day, and I will hopefully see you in the next video. So for now, may your grammar be structured and your vocabulary varied. Bye!